Alright everyone, Speaky Louis here. Today we're in the studio to check out one of the presets I made for my new pack, which is available on Splice. It's a test press pack called Soundsystem Drum and Bass. There's a lot of sounds in there and there's a bunch of Serum 2 presets to make bass sounds. The one I'm going to show you sounds like this. It's pretty heavy sub bass. I'm going to show you how I made it and give a few ideas for sound design on Serum 2. So first of all, you can see that there's not a lot going on with the oscillators. There's one sine wave and some white noise, and that's it. So I'm gonna mute the effects for now and show you the sound design process step by step. So if I play it without any effect on, it sounds like this. Just a noisy sub. It's cool, but it's not very interesting yet. So a few things that I can show you about this is we have this pitch envelope here. So envelope 2 is affected to the global, the main tuning, and it does a very quick pitch envelope at the beginning of the sound, which does this impact punchy kind of sound at the beginning of each bass note. This is quite useful if you're making 808 basses or kick drums. If you're synthesizing a kick drum with a synth, you need this kind of thing for the punch, the impact. Then we have this LFO here, which is affected to the envelope setting, and this allows to have the volume of the noise progressively rising, right? So we get the noise gets louder and louder if we play long notes. Okay, so this is our initial ingredients, and we're gonna make a more interesting bass sound out of this. So what we need is more harmonics. One could use complicated wavetables. There are some really good wavetables in Serum 2, but instead I like to make a lot of bass sounds by using distortion. And a lot of the UK drum and bass sound, maybe the classic sound, is made like this. It's like sine waves, white noise, distortion, filtering. That's how you get these tones. So let's have a look at this. The first thing we do is to distort the sound with some clipping. So I've used the hard clip setting on Serum 2 distortion. This is something that I tend to do even with my hardware. Like I would use an analog synth to make a sub bass and then clip it when it comes into the mixing desk or the sound interface. Clip it really hard, obtain a more mid-range sound, and then filter it, do all sorts of things to it. So here we've hard clipped the subs. It's not even enough. We want to distort it even more. So I've used the utility before that with the output volume set to max, so 12 dB, to go even more in the red when we enter the hard clipping, and it sounds like this. This is already a pretty cool sound, classic clipped 808 kind of sound. I use this a lot, and sometimes that's enough. Here I wanted something different, partly because, you know, when you have a sound like this, then it takes up a lot of space in the mix because it has a lot of subs, a lot of mid-range, and a lot of noisy tops. So maybe we want to turn it into something else. And in general, if you don't want the really obnoxious mid-range, you may want to filter them or do some kind of processing to control the mid-range, really. So I've always found that this was quite difficult to achieve in Serum 1, but in Serum 2, we have some new things that we can use for that. In particular, we have this splitter, which I use a lot, which allows you to process differently 3 bands of frequencies, the lows, the mids, and the highs, and you kind of decide on the boundaries as well. So in the lows, all I've done is kind of control the volume of the lows with this envelope, so that progressively they get quieter and we have more space for the mid-range. But that's it. Now in the mid-range, I've done a little bit more. Essentially, I've done some filtering. So I'm going to unmute and show you how it sounds. So I've used the bandpass filter on the mids, and you know, because we've just hard clipped everything, we have a lot of material in the mids and we can do a little bit of work on it. So we can use a bandpass filter or a high pass filter or low pass filter. It's all going to give different types of tones. Here I've used the bandpass, which allows us really to isolate certain harmonics, really. And then there's movement on the filter. So these isolated harmonics we're gonna kind of scroll through the harmonics, and it gives this sound which is kind of similar to like a guitar, you know, wah pedal for a guitar. So the cutoff frequency is mapped to the same slow envelope here. So we're going to have some movement on the filter, and the drive is also mapped to it. So the drive is increasing and the cutoff frequency is moving around. Now I've also mapped the cutoff to a macro over here, so you can move this around and get quite a lot of different tones out of the same preset. Some are pretty intense, you get these mid-range harmonics, but I think it's pretty cool. After this, I have put a chorus effect. Also, the mix of it is controlled by a macro, so you can decide how much you want. If you put a lot of chorus in there, it's gonna get really wide, but pretty cool sound. So in the highs, I've done nothing at all. But then after the splitter, I've done a little bit more processing. So now the 3 frequency bands come back together and we're gonna process them together to kind of glue the sound. So I've used another layer of distortion with the diode 1 setting. It gets pretty intense. It's a heavy bass sound. We have this macro controlling the drive, so we can also decide how much of this distortion we want. And then finally, there's a reverb. It's a little plate reverb that I will unmute now. The mix is controlled by our slow envelope. So we have a bit of reverb and a bit of tail, a bit of space for the long notes, which is pretty cool. Altogether, this gives you a sound with a lot of different options with the macro. So I encourage you to try a bunch of things, try with chorus, without chorus, move the cutoff, and you get a lot of different flavors out of this. That's it. I hope you will enjoy using this sound and the rest of the pack. Make a lot of bangers with it. Big up.